I request Shri Mithileshwar Thakur to get ready with his presentation.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mithileshwar Thakur, Secretary General AEPC. Next few minutes, I think we'll discuss on the current status of India's apparel industry, the challenges and opportunities and strategies that we have. Next slide, please. Well, you know that textile and apparel sector, with its glorious past and a promising future and rich tradition and heritage, is currently not going through a purple patch. But then there are many positives. India is one of the largest producer of all fibers, whether it is natural or synthetic. In cotton, jute, silk, we are in the top 2 or 3. And then again in polyester, viscose, nylon, acrylic. So that is it. Then, this is the second largest employer, next only to agriculture, employing almost 45 million people directly and some 60 million people indirectly. And then, the entire market size of textile and apparel sector is around $176 billion US, which is, of course, slated to reach a level of $300 billion by 2030. And export from this sector is supposed to touch $100 billion US. Next. But the most prominent component of this sector is apparel sector, and it has two very distinct features in the sense that it has humongous employment generation capacity and the capability to add value. And I'll give you a very small example. There is a case study of Reliance versus Size Exports, where the $2.2 million US of investment in Reliance generates employment of only 5 persons, vis-a-vis 1,250 people in Sai Exports. And it is not about Sai, it is about any other apparel industry. So 250 times. An investment of almost, say, 25 crore in plant and machinery or some 50-20 crore in building and would generate, around you will have 1,000 machines, employ around 2,000 people and generate 150 crore turnover a year. So this is the kind of, a statistic you would not find in any other industry. Now, coming to that, see, the external trade sector, of course, in apparel industry was not doing all that well almost for last decade or so. The export curve has almost flattened or plateaued, So, but then in last, I think more than a year or so, we have been doing pretty well. In fact, in USA, we have grown by 13%. In Spain, we have grown by 14%. In every market, we have grown. In fact, in areas like Korea, we have grown by 20%, Netherlands, some 27%. Japan and Korea, we had never grown. So but the fact remains that there is something serious, serious introspection that is needed from both the industry and the government. Next slide. So let us look at the challenges what we have. Can we enlarge it a bit? See, the main feature of this industry is that in India, I think next only China has that entire presence of the entire value chain, which no other country has got. So we have right from, fiber to fashion that they call spinning, weaving, and garmenting and everything. But the chain is fragmented. And the scale of operation, we do not have the scale. And the size of an average garmenting unit in India is almost 250 to 300 machines, where there is the global average around 1,000 machines. So you do not have economy of scale, which hampers the efficiency and the productivity. Now, I think all of us are aware that the PLIs, to bring up the scale, to augment the scale, 2 game-changer initiatives were introduced by the Ministry of Textiles. One was PLI, and the other was PM Mitra Park. Now, garment industry had an issue because the PLI threshold limit was pretty high. There were 2 channels, but the minimum was 100 crore. And because the sector is largely dominated by MSME, so we had floated another PLI 2.0, where we said that PLI should be given to apparel garment of all fibers, not only for MMF. That had been cleared by the Line Ministry of Textiles, and is pending with the cabinet. But our suggestion has been that pending that, whether it happens or not, there is PLI 1.0 could also be tweaked so that it could suit the interests of the garment industry, because the current requirement is year-on-year growth of 25%, which does not align with the current norms of the industry. Then the value addition prescribed is 60%, which could be brought down to 45. The product basket can be expanded. So some of the changes we have suggested, and the government is probably considering it. PLI, because I told the threshold limit was pretty high, so of course some 7,000 odd crores investment has been made, but the response is, I would not say very encouraging. Can you come back to the slide, please? Go back. Go back, please. Well, then there is high dependence on imported machinery. You know, if you take a data from 2019, 2023, I think for extrusion machinery, the growth has been 25%, you know, for spinning some 19 odd percent. And so we had made a suggestion to the government that because the technical upgradation is the order of the day and the tough scheme had discontinued, so the duty on textile machinery should be brought down to zero for a few years, maybe a couple of years, so that the technical upgradation could take place at a fast pace, and subsequently to encourage investment of manufacturing in industry, a tariff file could be raised, the duty could be raised high subsequently. So that was our suggestion. Then PM Mitra Park, of course, has been game changer initiative in the sense that it actually intends to integrate the entire value chain. So you will, within those, under the same roof, you will have spinning, weaving, processing and garmenting, everything. And these Mitra Parks are supposed to be designed to be 100% sustainable under the Sustainable Eco Park ecosystem, because which has been certified by UNIDO and ADB. So, but then the progress, I think industry is little, you know, of course, there are two brown fields in this. One is in Maharashtra and the other is in Telangana. But and other you know, green fields, two I think are about to land allotment about to start in MP, in Dhar and Virudnagar in Tamil Nadu. So we want faster you know, progress of PM Mitra Park. And then the major problem with the industry has been, and particularly export sector, that Indian exports are not aligned to the global demand. And that has been generally a problem with the entire export sector as such, but demand is more acute. Reason being that we are cotton-centric and summer apparel country. You know, India, the fabric consumption from cotton to non-cotton is 60:40. Globally, it is 30:70, or rather 28:72, because the world is moving towards MMF. For the simple reason, but because durable and very versatile fiber. So that is probably precisely for that reason only that, you know, we had PLI scheme in MMF fabric and MMF apparel. But I said for the regions stated, that has not taken off the way it should have taken off. So idea is to augment the capacity, particularly in synthetic fabric and garmenting. Then of course we have labor issues. Labor issues in the sense that in you know, city-centric apparel cluster. No, don't worry, I'll run through those slides, you know, if I cover this. So I'll quickly run through other slides, don't worry. So in city-centric, you know, clusters, there is shortage of labor in peak periods, you know, from I think October to March, you don't have. So we had suggested a scheme to the government that they could give some kind of an incentive during those regions, so that, you know, they get usual salary from the employers, and some kind of a, you know, stipend from the government. Then there are other problems. Problems are that, you know, Indian ILO prescribes that overtime rates should be something in the range of 120 to 125%. India, the overtime labor laws prescribed overtime rates of 200%. Whereas in Bangladesh and Vietnam, they give only 150%. So high overtime rates. Extra working hours, here it is limited 8 plus 1 hour only, because you have 45 days, I mean, practically 1 hour per day. Whereas in Bangladesh, it is 8 plus 4. Our productivity is low. We make 2.4 garments, you know, per hour, as against 2.8 in Vietnam and 3 in Bangladesh. And then, of course, the problem of night shifts, because, you know, the Section 66 of Factory Act that does not permit women to work in factories at night, though this particular provision was held unconstitutional by the Madras High Court way back in 90s only, but it continues. So what some of the states have done, they have brought out their own laws to employ women in factories. Like UP has done that, Andhra Pradesh has done it. Because the capacity augmentation is not taking place immediately, we had suggested that why don't we bring double shifts in manufacturing, because that could probably resolve a whole lot of problems. Because capacity constraint is the only thing that is preventing India from basically capitalizing on the opportunity that is presented by China plus one or Bangladesh plus one or whatever. But then again, like I told you, only UP and MP. So we have taken up with the government that they should take up with the state governments to bring a similar law so that double shifts could be implemented. And then, of course, there is lack of stability of policy framework, like inter-circulation scheme, it has lapsed with no alternative in place. 8F has expired, 2022. 8F we don't require, but for micro sector it is required, because even if PLI comes, that will not be able to address the requirement. Rostel is, of course, we want that schemes like RoadTap and Rostel should continue forever, because they are completely WTO compatible. So there is no need to give an expiry date to these schemes. Another major problem is market concentration. USA, European Union and UK account for 71% of India's exports. So any downturn in these markets can basically badly impact. So there is a need for urgent diversification that I'll come to later. And then we have poor speed to market. Like I told you, the chain is fairly fragmented. You have cotton grown in Maharashtra and Gujarat, but it is spun in Tamil Nadu, and it comes back to Gujarat again for processing. So there's a lot of back and then apparel cluster is spread all over the country. So there's a lot of back and forth which impacts the speed to the market, and that is where India falters. In fact, there is a study by BGMEA that the average speed of market of India is around 61 days, where Bangladesh was 50. But I think the gap is even wider. And that, prevents us basically from encashing the, what you call a fast fashion market. So we had suggested to the government that, like we have, Bharat Mart, we have set up in Dubai, in all these strategic locations, we can create something like Bharat Mart, so that, the order requirement could be immediately catered to. And then, of course, the major problem has been, that our major competitors have been Bangladesh and Vietnam, and of course, Cambodia. So most of these countries, either they're LDCs, so they have those, they can give prohibited subsidies, cash subsidies we cannot give because we have graduated from any 7 countries. Then they have that tariff preference in European Union, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and even Turkey. They all enjoy tariff access of average tariff is 9.6%. So that's a disadvantage. And of course, in country like Bangladesh, the low wage is one of the regions that. Next slide, please. So like capacity augmentation I spoke about, fast tracking PM Mitra I spoke. Hub and spoke model of PM Mitra, but we had suggested that, because all these PM Mitra parks are supposed to be 1,000 acre. So, but what happens, there's a lot of worker poaching in, in garment industry. So we had suggested that PM Mitra Park, the core should essentially be fabric, a part of apparel, but then spoke, we could, within a range of 50 to 100 kilometers, we could have a lot of spokes of garment, and that government is considering that they can extend that, benefit to those spokes also. Next, please. Then investment. So real need is the investment, because, even FDI in the textile and apparel sector, 100% FDI is under auto route, but no worthwhile investment has come. So there's a need to engage with foreign investors from USA. In fact, Japan, our delegation had gone, and there, brands like Uniqlo and Toray, and they all had committed that they are willing to come, but they want to engage with younger generation of India entrepreneurs rather than the old ones. That was the very honest feedback given by Uniqlo chief. And then, of course, we would also try to encourage, the local mega yarn players to investment in downstream, basically, to go into garmenting. Next, please. Duty free, I think we have spoken that. Yes, there was another thing, flexibility in import policy. Right now what happens that fabric, particularly MMF garment is the thing that will define the future of garment industry. And there we are critically dependent on import of MMF fabric. And what happens that because the style, design and pattern, it changes every now and then in fashion industry. And for a Russian, the garment size would be different than a Japanese. So these input-output norms which DGFT recognizes, or it does not cater to the requirement. So we have suggested a scheme that imports should be more flexible based on self-declared, self-ratified norms, and of course subject to inspection based on risk management system. Next, please. Yeah, I'll take another 2-3 minutes. Yeah. Well, just quickly, I'll take only 2-3 minutes. Yeah. Right. Then one of the major strategies could be branding, because what happens is the delta in apparel industry is big. The FOB value of exports at our end and the actual price that the consumer pays at the import destination is fairly huge. So we should stop manufacturing for others. We should start manufacturing for, so local brands can go global. We have had Bharat Tex done, where of course brand India image had improved, but local brands need to go global. Market diversification, actually markets like Russia could be explored because Indian rupee trade has been activated. One quick thing I would like to mention about e-commerce. Next, please. Next. So e-commerce, there is a huge opportunity in e-commerce in sectors like apparel, because currently the global trade of e-commerce is 800 billion. It is supposed to go to 8 trillion by 2030. India's e-commerce trade is only 5 billion. Now the point is, government Department of Commerce a year marked 20% of its exports target to e-commerce. That is 200 billion by 2030. Now we have huge opportunity now, because China was following what you call de minimis import policy. So any shipment below $800 was not attracting any duty. Now that they have changed, and now they have reimposed 100 to 20% duty. And China was exporting some $380 billion of e-commerce. They were doing almost 50% of global trade, and 36% was of course to US. So there's a lot of opportunity that can. E-commerce, I think we require few changes, because the problem that e-commerce faces is that the return consignments, they attract duty, because I think the courier shipping bills do not capture the entire description. So that could possibly be modified. Secondly, there's a requirement that there should not be variation of more than 25% invoice value and export realization. I think that can be addressed, because a lot of discounts and return shipments involved in e-commerce. So I think RBI is almost about to address this. So I think with these changes and tweaking in e-commerce policy, I think, so basically, I think we need to reimagine, and the scale, speed, and skill will drive this sector. The future is, of course, rosy, but then we need to get our act together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thakur. I request Abhay to present a memento. And Ranjan, you have a task to speed up the process now. Let us start with the agenda once again, and let's speed up, because we have a lot to. We have a lot to cover. Over to you.